The Surge is a hardcore action RPG with a focus on tactical melee combat. We are set in a dystopian near-future version of Earth, and our combat is really interesting in that you don't have light or heavy attacks. Instead, you have directional attacks, horizontal and vertical. The reason for that is that you can target specific body parts. You can deal more damage to unprotected areas of an enemy and push them back more, or you can attack armored parts of an enemy and chop off those body parts and then make that armor for yourself. So it's pretty cool. It's a unique system, unique take on these types of games, and you should play it.
Tell me something about the craft system.
Sure. Okay. So the crafting system in the game, you're able to craft equipment in the operations center. These are sort of hubs in the various parts of the world of the Surge. What happens is you learn blueprints when you pick up these body parts. You're able to analyze them and then learn how to craft those things. And then at the crafting station, you can combine those very same pieces of equipment that you chop off of your enemies, as long as you've acquired the necessary components. Some of which could be rare or hidden. Some of which you get for chopping off other body parts, things like this.
And is it interesting to backtrack?
Well, I certainly hope so. I mentioned in the presentation that we consider our game to be pretty Metroidvanian in nature. The levels have a lot of interconnections, and a lot of times you'll come across areas that you're not able to access the first time. It's important for you to think about when you acquire some new piece of technology, or when you reach a higher level of exo power or get a new exosuit, like what sort of areas that you may be able to access now that you couldn't access before, and hopefully that'll give a lot of good reasons to go check backwards in the world to find new secrets, new side quests, new rare equipment, things like this.
Is there a leveling up system?
There's not a traditional leveling up system. You don't go like level 1, 2, 3, 4, but you use your tech scrap that you gather from killing enemies to level up the core power of your exo rig. And what that allows you to do is equip more and different gear. It allows you to use more and more implants. Implants can be like passive benefits, like statistical things, health and energy and stuff like this. But they can also be active injectable implants, so you can get health back. You could give yourself a burst of combat stamina. Give yourself a buff to your weapon or to your defensiveness, like a temporary boost to these things. And then the more core power you have, the more of these implants you're able to equip. Some of them will cost a small amount of core power, some will cost more if they're more powerful or say more interesting. But then the more core power you have, the more of this you can use and customize your playstyle that way.
So there are no traditional skill trees in the game?
No, there's no traditional skill trees. You pretty much define your character by the equipment that you use, the armor types that you choose to wear, and the weaponry that you choose to use. So like the armor, you can gather your weaponry by killing enemies that are wielding those things, to chop them off their arms and take it for yourself. And they all have unique movesets. They all have unique finishing animations. These chops, these cuts that take off body parts, other tactical melee combat games, you'll need to experiment with these to learn the movesets, learn their properties, and that's kind of how you decide how to play. So.
Can you tell me something more about the environments or the setting of the game? Where will the combat be?
Oh yeah, certainly. So the game is set in this huge industrial complex of a company called Creo. I mentioned the backstory. The world is sort of destroyed right now. Not destroyed really, but like global warming has gotten really, really bad. Like floods, storms, all this stuff that's making it really difficult for governments to stay in power, to stay functional. And so regular people are kind of screwed in the world. And so this company is trying to solve these ecological problems, but of course, like many of these stories, their reach exceeds their grasp. So some really, really bad stuff happens as a result of these efforts, and your game is essentially exploring this huge industrial complex. Some of it is exterior areas, some of it is more interior, sort of like factory spaces and production halls and things like this. And then there's other different spaces, like really shiny, friendly management type places. It's like the entire company is sort of contained in this huge super complex, and you playing as Warren the hero of the game. You're just a regular guy. You're a regular employee of this company. You don't know what's happened here, and as you play through, you'll find out more and more, about the cause of this disaster, what was happening before, what's likely to happen after, and like you mentioned before, a lot of these sort of areas that you can't access the first time will have a lot of this story element in it. So if you want to just play through the game, bam, 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 do only like the main pass stuff, that's fine. You'll probably have a good time. I hope you will anyway. But you won't get every little bit of the narrative, So you have to sort of like seek those things out, learn the story piece by piece as you explore, as you play through the search.
Can you tell me something about the boss fights? Because you mentioned something interesting yesterday.
Yeah, I will talk about the boss fights. I mentioned that boss fights will have different ways to kill the boss. So we show in the demo, you can see like a video online in the write-up from this fine gentleman that in the particular boss fight we showed, this big security mecha, when you make it angry enough, when its threat level is very high, it will launch rockets. And if you trick the robot into getting hit by the rockets, it'll bring it down to the ground while it reboots its systems. It'll let you target an armor piece, hit it in a weak spot, and deal a bunch of damage. Now, what I mentioned is that is an easier way to fight the boss, to kill the boss, really, but it's not the only way. There's another way to kill the boss, which the players should, sort of try to figure out on their own. It won't necessarily just be handed to you on a platter, but what we want is for people to try to intuit, and to learn about these fights and figure out, okay, well, if this way is the easier way, there's got to be a different, harder, special way. And if you kill the boss in the special way, then you'll get a more rare, more powerful version of its loot. I'd like to make sure it has special effects or, a variant moveset or, something like this. Something that makes it really, really interesting and rewarding for the, the power gamers amongst us to try to kill the boss in a more difficult manner.
When will be the release date?
So the Surge is releasing in 2017 for PS4, Xbox One, and PC.